we're also, and this is something that we've been able to get into more of, is our monitoring program. And so that is a component that if there's just one or two of us, it's not possible to add in-house. But since our numbers are greater, we're now able to monitor and talk about the results, ecological results of some of our projects. Yeah, Alex, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, let's bring in. I want to come back to the monitoring, but let's bring you in, Alex, please. First of all, hold that thought that Gwen was just asking you, if you could, and let's get to know you a little bit better. Clark University, correct?
Yep, that's where I started. It's where I remembered how much I just loved nature. I was on a different trajectory, I guess, and then was fulfilling a science requirement and realized that like this was my thing. It had always been. So after school, I went into sort of my first like career trajectory was kind of wildlife research, looking into like rare reptiles and amphibians, seeing the need for habitat protection and land protection. I moved into that realm a bit, and then from there, I kind of wanted to look at habitat management, so sort of some restoration of habitat types. But I think going back to what Gwen was saying, I sort of started to really see the need to protect and restore natural processes, especially in an age of climate change where we don't know where anything is going, particularly in terms of ecological outcomes. We do know that we need certain processes to be intact. So that's sort of what has pushed me into this field.
Yeah, when I met you a year ago, you had just come aboard, I believe.
Yeah.
So that was, you said the Conway School is where you went back to, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Was that were you doing that while you were working, like a night school, or did you just go back full time?
It's like a 1-year intensive program.
Okay.
So I was not working. I was just at school.
Good.
And actually, another person who works with us was my classmate at the Conway School, Carrie White, who works on our green infrastructure projects. He was my classmate of mine.
Well, I was looking at your background, and the environmental track, really comes through. And that's a blessing that you were able to recognize that passion so early and pursue a career in it. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think Gwen was tossing the ball over to you to talk a little bit about, we were talking about monitoring and maybe one of the projects you're working on.
Yeah, sure. So we do some monitoring on projects that are complete. So we're removing dams for fish passage. So what we do is we then set a fish trap, a non-lethal sort of funnel. It's like a big minnow trap in the river. We set that upstream of the site and we monitor what is passing through. So we've been seeing on the 2 sites that we're monitoring most readily, we're seeing alewife coming back in pretty big numbers. It varies year to year. It's just kind of a cyclical thing, but we're seeing good numbers. We're also seeing other migratory fish. Actually, just this week, on Whitford Brook out in Stonington, we caught our first American shad. So that would be the first American shad that was known to be past that particular dam site. I don't know, in how many years, Gwen?
300.
Okay. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So yeah, in addition to the migratory fish monitoring, we also work with Connecticut Department of Fisheries, and we monitor we go out and during the summer, we monitor the resident fish communities to see if it's sort of reverting to or returning to a riverine fish community as opposed to a pond fish community behind that in that unnatural impoundment. That was a result of the dam, and we are seeing a return to the river community, and also the return of some species like brook trout, which is a cold water indicator. So yeah, it's like really exciting stuff. We also look at the vegetation that is recolonizing that impoundment. We did some surveys to see if that vegetation that's coming back is, just what the diversity is, and also what the like the wetland indicator status is of that plant community. And we're also working with a team from Yale, from the Yale School of Forestry, who's doing a much more in-depth sort of statewide study on how forests and other vegetation communities are regenerating on these former dam impoundments post-removal. So yeah, that's sort of a broad brush of our monitoring, I'd say.
How do you monitor the fish? You were just, how do you do that?
Oh, the fish communities?
Yeah.
So it's called Electro Fishing, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a standard method that fisheries staff uses to sample a stream reach. So they walk through and they've got these wands, these electric backpacks, and then wands, and it sends a current through the water. It stuns the fish. You scoop them up, you put them in a bucket, and then you count them, and then they wake back up, and then you let them go. So it's a pretty standard fisheries sampling method, and that's how we do that.
And what about, you mentioned a fish trap. Does that, it sounded like it doesn't actually trap it and keep it in there, or does it?
Yeah, so I'm using my hands. There's a river behind me. So it's like it funnels into like a little basket. The fish go in there, then they can't swim out. And then you scoop them out with the net and you count them, and then you throw them back, but past the trap. So then they continue swimming upstream to whatever spawning habitat they were pursuing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's the other fish sampling method.
Okay. Interesting. So maybe let's take a step backwards for a moment and just, I know Save the Sound has recently decided on one name. You're a roll up or a combination of really 3 different organizations, and for a while you were using 2 names. Can you talk a little bit about the history and this recent development?
You want me to tackle, or you want to do it the other way?
I haven't been around quite as long, but I'll tackle it. Yeah. So, oh, there we go. Yeah, we used to be Connecticut Fund for the Environment.
Hey.
That's a collector's item now. Yeah. So yeah, Save the Sound. We've been around for 40 years. We focus on sort of region-wide environmental action. So we're looking at fighting climate change, protecting important landscapes, and then of course protecting and restoring our waterways, the sound as well as the freshwater systems that feed that sound. And we do that through a series of different methods. We have like advocacy and outreach just to normal citizens, and then we do also legal action if that's needed. We have a pretty big program for water quality testing known as the Unified Water Study that looks at water quality in the embayments around Long Island Sound. And then there's the physical restoration projects that our team works on. So that's the dam removal, barrier removal, fish ways and fish ladders, the green infrastructure, marsh restoration, and all of that.
Okay. So. Yeah, thanks. I know, and there was actually a third organization some years ago, the Soundkeeper.
Yeah, I can add to that. So the Save the Sound went through a pretty robust survey and branding effort with both with our members and with the general public to talk about a unified name. There's really been a need for one since the Connecticut Fund for the Environment and Save the Sound merged in 2003. But with the addition of Soundkeeper, it became even more necessary. So Terry Backer, who was the original Soundkeeper, was really a huge advocate for Long Island Sound and a state legislator. And he passed away, and prior to his passing, he and Soundkeeper as an individual entity sought out another organization to adopt the nonprofit. And so, with his blessing, Save the Sound adopted the Soundkeeper program, and now we have a Soundkeeper on staff named Bill Lucy. So a Soundkeeper is a person as well as the entity and part of the Waterkeeper network, which is an international network. And so we retain those connections and a boat named the Terry Backer, but now under a unified name of Save the Sound. And that was far and away the choice by both people in inland systems in New York and Connecticut for what was name really resonated with people and seemed like the most something that most conveyed what we're doing. And so I mean, I've got to say from a personal end, it really feels right to be able to very succinctly say what it is that we're trying to achieve. So we're happy with that.
Great. Yeah, I think well, I definitely remember Terry. I think he started, I can't put a year on it, but when I was a kid, I think he started. And if I'm not mistaken, he was out of like the Westport or Norwalk area.
That's right. Yeah. Yep.
I thought it was a really cool effort and a cool guy. I never had the chance to meet him, but he did some good work.
Thanks for watching. For more information, visit our website at www.futurefrogmen.org.